Welcome back to the 13th grade, sponsored by Mendipity.com. I'm Elliot Shoener. Let's make you rich. All right, guys, thank you for joining me back here at the 13th grade. Our pursuit to make you rich, wealthy, financially stable, just better off than where you were at the beginning of this program. Let's just drop the pressure and make it easy for you. I think it makes sense, guys, before we go forward, for those of you who have not seen me on social media, who don't necessarily who I am, just to kind of give you a little bit of information about me in general, so that way you understand, like, you know, why should I be listening to this guy or whatever, like who's he to be teaching me. And then the next episodes, I promise you, are all tons of just, you know, really great stuff. So just to kind of recap from last time, you know, we've designed this course, you know, the course was specifically designed to be simple, okay? And the reason, again, why we designed that is if we made it complicated, it would just take, you know, just way too long to cover all the information. But more importantly, like, if we provided all the little granulars, I just think it would be too much, and then you might just get discouraged and you'll just like kind of drop out of it. The design of this course is not to teach you the small granulars of how to do like fix and flips in real estate, or how to, you know, set up an Amazon store. Like, there's plenty of people that are out there. The core reason for this course is for you to go, okay, I'm going to do an Amazon business store, or I might choose to decide to do that, or I might decide to go into real estate, or I might decide to go into buying a dumb business, or, you know, laundromat, or restaurants, or whatever it is, or just, heck, I'm just going to put the money in a 401k, so, you know, IRA, throw in an S&P index fund. I may do that. But I want you to understand why you're doing that, and so that you understand, like, hey, there is potentially something that could be more beneficial. There's tax implications for each one of those things that you do. But more importantly, you know, for those of you, especially that are young, I might say to you, hey, you should invest in fourplexes. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, how the hell am I going to do that? I don't even have the credit for that. Or how would I even get started with that? Or what the heck is even a fourplex? Or why would I do a fourplex, like, versus just, you know, I listened to, you know, someone else and they just said, just put money in an IRA. Or my mom just said, you know, put money in envelopes. Like, why am I doing each one of those? So the idea is I want you to have that clear understanding of, this is the way that people create generational wealth, is, you know, by, you know, one, using credit, making sure you have great credit scores, by maximizing the amount that you have in income. But then when you have that income, to be deploying it into saving investments, and by doing so with taxes in mind, to ensure that you maximize the ROI, you keep the most money possible, and that money can grow exponentially to really set everyone up. So a little bit about me, as I said to you, like, my name is Elliot Shoener. I am currently right now 43. I've actually reached the state of FIRE, so being financially independent with the ability to retire early, right around the 38 range. I started my path of just wanting to do something different, to be quite honest with you, at around the 33, 32 age, right when I met actually my wife currently right now. Up to that point, to be quite honest with you, I had, when I started my journey, I had $40,000 in credit card debt. I didn't have any real estate whatsoever. I had a really great job. But I was kind of just doing what most people are doing out there. So I was keeping up with the Joneses. I was turning my cars over every couple of years with a lease. I was, you know, buying things that I knew I was going to be able to pay off because I had a great income. But, you know, those credit cards kind of got out of control, obviously. And I had some equity in a house that I had purchased. I still had student loans. But basically, I was just doing what everyone else does, which is kind of living, not exactly paycheck to paycheck, but like, if I didn't get a check, like, I'd be worried about it. I couldn't be where I am today, where I could, you know, not get a check. Well, I could not get a check ever, and I'd be perfectly fine. So The only reason why that has changed is through the graces of meeting some really, really great mentors, which I'll talk about, and them providing me information that completely changed the way that I see and act and felt and just otherwise just approach money altogether. And it only took me from 33 to let's call it 5 years until I got to the point of reaching the ability to say, like, hey, I can actually retire now. Like I don't necessarily need to work anymore. But like I say, for most cases, for those that are able to retire, especially at a young age, for those that have put in the work and did the due diligence, oftentimes when you get to that level, it's really not a case of like, can you reach it? Because of course you've gotten there. But as you start to implement some of these policies or some of these principles in your life, you realize pretty quickly, like, oh, I'm going to reach this number here at this age. And it ends up being not about can I do it, but how far can I go? And so currently right now, Claire and I, the wife, 3 kids, 9, 7, and 3, that currently live with us. And basically we're in a standpoint of just saying, like, how far can we go? We're not going to retire. We already travel around the world, all that kind of stuff. So we have our fun, but for us, like they say, like if you just, if I decide like, oh, I'll retire and I'll just sit on a porch and drink lemonade all day long, you just slowly, it's the end, so always stay busy. I'm a firm believer that even though I can retire, I'll probably always have my hand in something else. So current real estate portfolio, current activities that we're actually doing right now, we own a real estate brokerage, One Door. If you do follow me on social media, you'll see a lot of posting of that. When we started that brokerage, we worked heavily with investors initially, so dealing with just people that wanted to do a buy and hold from overseas, locally, just all over the United States, whatever. And so because we were working with investors, of course, the next question was, well, I bought this property and I'm renting it out, but who's going to do the property management? Because they weren't local. And so we began to start a property management company, sort of layering in those two businesses together. They kind of actually feed off each other now. And so we have a real estate brokerage and a property management company. And of course, because we are in the real estate in general, we always can find really great deals. We are, of course, invested heavily ourselves into the real estate industry. Currently right now have a portfolio of 24 properties. Not huge, but decent size. 20 of those are long-term rentals. 4 of those are short-term rentals, or Airbnbs, as most of you know it. We got started on that whole thing before in that whole journey by owning a restaurant. Actually, before that, I worked in the corporate lifestyle, or corporate field for a Fortune 500 company. I was basically VP of a Fortune 500 company. Before that, I was basically operational CEO for a private business. And so I kind of made my bones there in business and in marketing and sales and all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to do something different. We wanted to do this thing called entrepreneurship. So we went out, we started a restaurant, and that's been going for the last several years, and we'll continue to keep going. And of course, I do other things. I used to do other things as far as a side hustle. Currently right now I trade, mainly just because it's so fascinating to me. I don't know, I never got to play video games when I was a kid. My brother always monopolized the Nintendo and the I guess it was Sega at the time when I grew up. I never got to play video games, and I look at trading, specifically day trading, as kind of a game. It's for me, and it's just really fascinating to me. We'll show some videos, like I don't know, it's like slide 70 or something like that. It's just really incredible how you can go in, and if you're not emotional about it, you can sort of buy in and sell out within 10 minutes, make a couple $100. And I currently do that, and it's kind of play money for me. So whatever I make, I get to go play around with. And if I don't make anything, then I don't get to go have money to play around with. And so that's just my kind of fun money. Currently right now, I'm funding the F.I.R.E. 488 off the day trading, and it takes me about a minute today. Again, we'll show that to you a little bit later. The reason for this course, and I'm going to read this directly from the slide, but the path to financial freedom hasn't changed for generations. We simply don't teach it in our schools, and I can't say that to you enough. The way that the families, the Rockefellers, the way that everyone gets to the end point, it's not changed. There's no secret about it. It's just simply not taught in our schools. I'm a firm believer. The reason for that is because the people that control our schools, both in the, middle school, high school, college, whatever, even if the government wanted to, they could provide this type of information. The reason why they don't do it is because if everyone actually adopted the principles that the 1% live by, there wouldn't be the 99% and the 1%, right? It would just be the 1%, or we would just be the 100%. Specifically, the way that you get to the 1% from the 99%, it's a transfer of wealth, right? So the 99% are doing activities that basically transfer their hard-earned dollars and their wealth to the 1%, and the 1% keep it. And so the 1% aren't really doing anything other than just not doing what the 99% are, which sounds super obvious. And you're probably saying to me like, well, no, because I get to eat and they just have more. We're going to get into it. But I don't feel like they teach the principles and the things that we're going to go over here, specifically because, again, if they did, they would lose power. So for this reason, because the principles are so obvious, and because they're there and there's no secret sauce, like you don't have to, it's not about inventing an app to become wealthy. It's not about, starting some crazy business to be wealthy. It's just, you kind of just follow this process. For that reason, the greatest privilege in life is a person's intentional or unintentional circle of influence. So that is what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and you otherwise surround yourself with. And so I talked a little bit about this in the introduction. And so your circle of influence, again, is, what are you watching on TV? Like today, you're watching me. I'm going to have an influence on you. What are you listening to? If you're just listening to, music or whatever, okay. If you listen to podcasts, that's going to have an influence on you. Who you read, obviously, same thing, but what do you surround yourself with? So if you're surrounding yourself with a group of guys that are girls that are whatever, that are going to be entrepreneurs, you're going to probably follow that path, or you're going to be interested in that. If you surround yourself with people that are frugal, that are saving and investing and doing whatever they can to create this thing called generational wealth, you're probably going to be influenced to do that. If you're surrounding yourself with people that get their check on Friday and they immediately are like, let's hit the club and let's go party, you're probably going to go do that. Which, again, I promise you I wasn't going to plug our website all the time, but Medipity.com, go find like-minded people, both in the community as a large and even locally to you. I highly encourage people that are there to go create groups locally. So we're in Atlanta, Georgia. Like, go find a Medipity.com Atlanta, Georgia group and connect with those people so that you can sort of, stick with each other and keep each other straight. But the point is that your circle of influence, intentionally, unintentionally, is going to greatly impact you. When I say intentionally, what I'm saying to you is that you intentionally pick the friends that you are around. Unintentional is that you don't pick the family that you grow up in. And so the best way that I can explain it to you, and you'll get this after you go through the whole course, but the way that my children grow up, the way they see, act, approach, what they will do with money, the careers that they choose, how they earn money, all of that is of course going to be completely different than a family from a working class family that might have, be living paycheck to paycheck, have $20,000 in credit card debt, that gets their check on Friday and spends it all, and isn't saving for retirement, isn't thinking about generational wealth, and they're just doing that earn and consume lifestyle that most 99% of Americans do. Those two paths of those two children is completely different. I'm a true believer that the true privilege is not your race, your color, your gender, your all that, but is it actually who your parents are, and if not your parents, who you grew up with. If your parents, like mine are, were from a working class family, we didn't have two pennies to rub together. Therefore, I never learned anything about financial literacy. Not to their discredit. I got a lot of great things from them, but not just not financial literacy. If I just continued on that pathway, I would, that's why I had $40,000 in credit card debt. I changed my cars over, and I wasn't investing, and I wasn't doing anything. Only until I met somebody, and I guess that was an intentional changing my circle of influence, but I met somebody and they said, wait a minute, you should be doing this. And that just started to snowball into other things. Did I change my circle of influence? Did it change? So if you're unintentionally sort of stuck with these people, if you get outside of that, you can change. And a good example of that is I have, in which what started the birth of actually this particular course was just people coming up to me and saying, hey, in a restaurant, saying, hey, you're young. How did you buy this restaurant? How do you own it? I don't understand. Like, you're so young. Sorry, guys. You're so young. Like, how'd you do it? And I've started to kind of like share some of that with those guys, and those guys have been changing. And those guys come from working class families, families that don't necessarily have a whole lot of funds, and they're doing things in their life right now to change their outcome. And sort of seeing them change and get benefit from the things that I've sort of mentored them, I was like, hey, I could probably do this at a large scale, and hence here we are with the course. While money, let me be clear with you guys, while money does not buy you happiness, financial freedom does allow you to do whatever you want, whenever you want, for as long as you want. And being able to pursue one's passion or purpose ultimately is, ultimately achieving a life of fulfillment is the definition of happiness. And so what I mean by that is, listen, if I get $100,000 on my account and I can go buy a new BMW, like, that's great. I'm gonna drive the BMW. It's gonna make me happy. I'm gonna feel good because maybe people see me in a BMW and they give me accolades. But really what brings you a life of happiness is that, I wake up, I don't have anywhere to report. I don't have a job to report to. I can take my kids and we can fly around the world. Instead of them learning about Rome in school, we take them to Rome to learn about Rome. I can, attend every soccer game. I can, take my daughter to, get her nails done on the weekends. Like, we don't have money as a worry, which allows us then to go do whatever we want to do. And some of that's giving back. Some of that is this right here. Believe it or not, like, I'm not making any financial gains from this, really. But I wouldn't be unable to do this if I would had to be sitting in a job right now, working 9 to 5, worried about where my paycheck comes from. So while money itself doesn't make you happy, the money being able to take care of that financial burden off you and allowing you to then go pursue what is a life of fulfillment or whatever does sort of give you happiness is it. So as you'll learn, money is simply a tool. And so, yes, that's a tool that allows you to go pursue happiness. And I'll leave it at this, guys. And it's short, but I don't want to talk about myself forever. So, what I will say to you though is what I am not your CPA. I'm not your attorney. I'm not your accountant. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not any of those things. Even with all the knowledge I have, even with everything that we're going to cover here in this course, I still go seek out all of these professional people before I make any decision. And I know this stuff, okay? So as we go through stuff and I'm talking about stuff, again, we're just going to the surface level. I don't know you. I don't know your financial situation. I don't know your risk tolerance. I don't know anything about you. I'm talking to a camera right now in a dark studio. So I don't go and listen to something we're saying and saying, oh, well, Elliot said this because this course, so I'm going to take all my money and I'm going to go do this. Oh, Elliot said this about stock. I'm going to take out a home equity line and go. Don't do any of those things. Before you take any decisions financially, you should be talking to a financial advisor. You should be talking to a CPA about what that means for you tax-wise. If you're going and starting a business, like, you need to retain attorneys to make sure you set those up properly and do those types of things. Go seek out professionals. I do it. I recommend you do it. Please, please, please do not take action without doing so. Without further ado, we are going to go into the state of America and why we're being successful, why we're not being successful. I would love to go individually with each one of you to discuss your situation, but because we can't do that, we're just going to look at United States as a whole, and let's talk about where we are getting it wrong. Until next time.